Ladies and gents, welcome to the show. In this episode, we had Brady Dakota Murray come in and talk about him being Buddhist and his path to enlightenment. Now, it's kind of funny. Originally, that was not what I had him coming on for. I wanted him to come on and talk about veganism and his whole diet. And the more me and him talked, the more I actually went to that topic, and I found out some interesting things. So I actually wanted him to come on and talk about that. I am still looking for a vegan. If anyone knows a vegan out there who is against hunting and everything that goes into killing animals, I really would like to talk to one. Brady's against it, but he's not willing to stop it. I want to talk to somebody who's a very activist in stopping it. I just want to get their opinions. If you like this episode, give us a like on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all social media, and podcast platforms. Also, if you would like to be on the podcast, please contact us on any social media platforms. We are the Divided People. We welcome anyone and everybody as long as you don't have hate speech and you can talk in a civil manner. Because we've had some people come on, talk to, who haven't been civil, or when they make comments, they say inappropriate things or they come off way too rude, and that's not what we're about. I do believe in getting people's opinions out there. I don't believe in attacking people for their opinions and calling them inappropriate names and stuff. That's just not right. We're here to have people have a civil discussion and spread ideas and different opinions and hopefully come to a good conclusion and to make the world better. So, nevertheless, I hope you enjoy this episode. And we are live. I'm your host, Marky Mark. We are the Divided People. I should have said it the other way around, but we're okay with that. To my right is my co-host, Lance.
What's up, guys?
He is back. He was MIA last episode, I know, but he's okay, guys. I thought he was dead. So,
it's all right. I kind of was. A little on the inside. It's all right.
We're working on that for people. We really are working on that. I'm trying to make him better. To my left, we have Brady Murray. Went to high school with him, and yeah, real interesting kind of guy, if I can say so myself.
So just to give a little lead off, we put out some feelers today. We're really looking to get some people with some interesting point of views, and I got to say this guy's got some interesting point of views. Very unique. We want to hear a little bit about his choices, his opinions, and we love to hear that kind of stuff, and we love for people to really get their opinions out there and to hear how they're living their life. So give us a little info on you, a little bit of your personal life choices and way of looking at things.
Okay.
I don't need this anymore.
So I'm Brady. Brady Dakota. It means spirited friend. Fun fact.
Really?
It does. Welsh.
Wait, I'm sorry. But so North Dakota's.
Dakota means friend in Native American, yes.
So North friend.
North friend and South friend.
And that's where you go to trip, or is that Nevada?
That would be Nevada. But
We should change that.
We should I mean, you can trip wherever you are.
No, but like in the desert where you're just like going on that whole spiritual
the
quest.
Mojave Desert, yeah.
Yeah, okay. We got to fix that.
I think you just trip wherever you land. I mean, it's just wherever it's available.
Yeah.
I think that's just where the peyote was.
Yeah.
That's what
peyote. How do you say it? I think it's just because it was available there. I think that's more of that.
Anyway, sorry.
No, I love it. I do hair. It's been very, very fun. Easy way to make money, honestly, and I enjoy it. I get to be with people every day, and I love people, and it's art form to me. I do art, several types of art, so I just need an outlet to be creative. And I would call myself a Mahayana Buddhist.
Which is
a certain sect of
Yeah,
Buddhism.
my understanding is that there is a lot of different types
Yeah,
of
they're
Buddhism.
different. It's just different thoughts. We do love Jesus. Just let everybody know. We don't really care what y'all think regardless, but we do love Jesus because he's a wonderful young man. So at the end of the day, good is good all the time. It never will not be good. Good is always good, and bad is always bad. So ultimately, my understanding with things is I'm always looking at things in an intuitive way because I know at the end of the day if something felt okay for me to do. So ultimately, I have been led to this outlook that I have really kind of researched and tried to refine for myself and for the benefit of others. So Mahayana Buddhism ultimately is not a religion, it's more of a practice. It's more of a ethical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual overarching theme at which you can look at life with. And if it works for you, then it works for you, and that's amazing. But also, if something does not work for you, you are expected and it is valued for you to at least attempt to bring yourself to a further understanding of that thing. So I've been, for years, kind of practicing how I feel on things and what works for me. And I've found joy with where I'm at in life. So please feel free to ask any questions.
So I want to back up. I want to go way back. What do you feel like was a turning point that pushed you toward this? Or actually, let's go back before that. Before you followed this path, where were you? And what kind of mindset, lifestyle, all that?
So ultimately, right? Ultimately, I was born into a Christian household, very loving, very maternal, very wonderful, honestly. But from a very early age, I would meditate. I would go sit outside and.
Did you learn that from somewhere, or was it just feel right?
It just felt right. It just felt right to be at peace with myself and with everything else around me. So really, like, that started being noticed, and my grandmother was very big on, like, well, let's run with it. Let's talk about it. Like, okay, cool. And her sister was very big about it as well. Her husband really kind of was a black belt in karate, so he taught me things about, like, chi and, like, qigong and, like, the flow of things. So it kind of opened up rivulets in my brain and, like, okay, well, really, we can go different directions with this. So I started studying different types of, like, magic, like all types of magic. And it turns out, like, I'm actually 50% Welsh and 50% Irish Scottish. And the majority of their ancestral background are Druids. So it's just something that has always felt natural for me to do. It's to just lean towards the metaphysical. So ultimately, I started meditating more and more over the time, and I always thought it was interesting, the outlook on ethics. Like, I would always say, you know, as a kid, we're very impressionable, but I kind of wasn't. Like, when something was wrong, I felt like it was wrong. And, like, I would see different things, and they would hurt me. Like, I was very vulnerable, and kind of still am in a good way. But, so things really impressed on me as a child. Like, I wasn't just going through the motions. I was very present as a child. So I would say high school, I was first, like, it's funny because anime kind of brought me to that. I remember on Naruto, if anybody watches Naruto, but
Everybody watches Naruto.
They better. I mean, honestly.
Boruto's a different story.
Yeah. But
that's another episode, guys.
They had characters for each path of, reincarnation. I said, well, that's interesting of a thought. What is that about? So I researched it more. I'm an avid reader. I love reading. I love learning. I just, what can I shove into my brain and absorb? Anything and everything that I can fit and that feels right, I fit. And so I just kept reading, and I kept reading, and I kept reading, and I kept going on with my path and just existing as a human. You know, we all kind of go through different things. Like, my house is flooded twice. I lost my grandmother. Deep-seated learning lessons. So, like, after that, it kind of all clicked for me about 2 years ago. And, like, I was said, you know, ultimately, I remember I was looking at something, and I was like, I really want to just follow up through Buddhism, because I like reading everything about everything that I can read about. And we can read about so many things. We have a master computer in our palms of our hands at all times.
Yeah, I'm using mine right now. It's awesome.
So, like, why would you not want to read? Why would you not want to learn?
It's funny that you brought that
YouTube
up.
and Instagram, Brady.
Yeah, I was like, it's funny that you brought that up, because that's something I've actually had a discussion with somebody about recently. Was, like, back in the day, you know, we had to go to the library, get an encyclopedia, look it up, read it, and I mean, you had a bunch of BS in there that maybe wasn't related to what you were trying to find. Now, it's like exactly what you want to find, whenever you want.
And in large amounts.
And yet people are and yet people are getting dumber. I don't understand it.
I find it funny because me and my wife go out, we'll hang out with friends, and they'll go, "What's this?" And I'm like, why don't you just look?
Yeah,
up
you
on your
literally
phone?
you
Like, it's
literally have
right
infinite
there.
information in
And
your
I go,
phone.
yeah, but I could just ask you. I'm like, you're gonna ask
So
me to
I
look
can
it up.
look
Yeah,
it
I'm
up.
like, so I can look it up. Like you.
Yeah.
Like you.
I gotta say
this.
gotta say that happens to me pretty often.
Yeah.
My own wife will be like, "Where's that restaurant at?" I'm like, "You have a phone.
Yeah.
Like it tells you anything and everything you want to speak of the devil, anything and everything you want to know." And they won't do it. I'm not saying everybody like that. Just saying. But the point of what I was saying was, so I was discussing this, how there's infinite information, and yet people are getting dumber. And we were discussing why that is. Like, maybe because at one point you had to be a little bit reputable to actually get a book published, maybe. You know, so your information had to be somewhat
Well,
good.
it's not just that. I mean,
No, these are just ideas we're bouncing off each other. I'm not saying it's true or anything.
One
I'm just
of
saying
the
we're
main things
thinking.
I think is, I mean, it doesn't take shit to get an article post.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Nowadays you can literally post whatever you want, whether it be true, not
Like,
true, credible, not
the New
credible,
York
doesn't
Times
matter.
posted that whole, kid who was a Democrat, watched videos on YouTube and went Republican and then went back to Democrat.
That was an interesting
And
article. I was like,
one, they had spelling errors on there left and right. It's like whoever did it is like type. Okay, send it before they even realize what I'm sending. Like, you know, and like, I feel like
the
he
one
put
that
a
they
whole
said he was
nother-
radicalized and
Yeah,
stuff.
and
I'm like, I don't think they
but
understand
he
what
put-
radicalized means.
But if you notice,
Right.
the people that he said, some of them were Democrats.
Mhm.
I'm like,
Yeah, they left those out when the talking points when that hit the.
but I was like, but
It's like because he had videos by like everybody you could imagine. I'm like, I'm sure you're not even listening. What about the dumb ones that he watched?
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's some dumb ones in there. Maybe they radicalized them. You don't know.
But I've seen a lot of that from, and it's sad because we're talking about the New York Times that was once a amazing company that's where you got your news from.
An actual editorial.
Yeah, and then like I feel like they're more of, I don't know. I feel like I can get my news from TMZ a little bit better than them at some points.
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's I mean it's everyone though. It's not just them.
No,
I mean,
yeah.
Every news source now is biased and leaning one way or another, and it's actually for all information now. Every piece of information you go is going to swing heavy one way or another, and they're going to be biased. They're going to leave some facts out conveniently. They're going to favor their side, including bending the truth for their side.
Oh, absolutely.
And they're not even. The biggest thing I think is a problem. People don't even check their facts anymore. Nobody checks the facts. Like before I publish this, maybe I should look into this a little.
They don't want to because they want to be the first ones out. That's what it matters.
But
It's
that's why I wonder if maybe that's
what the problem.
if maybe that's
It is the
related to
problem.
the problem.
I think the problem is that we're not getting dumber, we're getting smarter. But the thing with getting smarter is there's a right and a wrong getting smarter. So if two sides are getting smarter, then there's more opportunity to blur the truth. And then there's more opportunity to clarify and bring the truth forward. So ultimately, like, you can look at the dynamic of like, well, okay, well, are we doomed or are we not doomed? Well, it's not good to think that we're doomed because ultimately then we will be. But it's people like you and I that care because everyone truly cares. It's just sometimes they're unaware that they care.
So to elaborate on what I was saying though, when I say that, I wasn't saying it just to be like shock and awe. I mean literally,
No,
IQ
definitely.
levels have dropped in the last like 30 years.
I could
And
believe that.
Like
Well,
there's actual gaugeable things showing
to-
that intelligence has dropped.
Yes.
And a bunch of that could be reliance on the internet.
Well, not even. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that's what I was about to say. It's not just the internet either. I mean, like you legit have.
Exactly.
a tool
But
that-
that's my point is the ability we had the ability to the thing that makes humans intelligent,
Mm-hmm.
right? Was our ability to one recognize patterns, to retain information and use that information
Mm-hmm.
and patterns to come up with logical assumptions and stuff like that, which is how we kind of figured out things. Fire hot, that kind of thing. And we figured out things. That's like the original basis of how we judged intelligence, okay? We had an innate ability to do that, and it was above average for most other. I'm talking about way back.
I know
what
Now
you're
it's a
talking
little
about.
different now.
It's
I'm
a
just
lot
saying.
different now because IQ. I feel like IQ, the way they judge IQ, is wrong anyway because we're so advanced as a civilization that you can. Brady is probably a master at cutting hair. You give
We
me the
trying.
clippers, If you give me those Clippers, I'm gonna do a horrible job.
Yeah, you're talking about but you're talking about talent and, skill at something.
Well, it's something you learn. It's something you train.
It is
because not everybody starts off.
It is,
good.
but what I'm saying, what IQ actually is your ability to think in a certain way.
Yeah,
that's what IQ
and you can't,
is.
The test that they use for IQ isn't really good.
And it's
ultimately the test would have to be adaptable.
Yes, well, that brings us to the word stupid, which most people don't understand. Stupid doesn't mean you're
my whole thing is I don't use the word stupid. I use the word
it's a word that's taken.
Yeah,
that's exactly my point. The word stupid has taken on a new point. Yeah. Stupid used to mean you were bad. You were bad in a subject.
I mean, a lot of words do that. A lot
you're stupid at math.
And so I like to say, like I said, I'm ignorant at cutting hair.
Exactly.
And it's true though. I don't.
Right. Ignorance is ultimately you could learn, but you're choosing not to learn.
You lack that you lack that information ability.
And you lack the drive to absorb the information.
And I think I don't know where I'm going with this thought.
Well, I'll back up to what I was saying. My point to it was I've been around. Okay, so with my age, I've been around an older generation of college kids, an really old generation before I ever was at that age. Then the generation that I would have been in college, and then the more recent generation. I've been around all three of them, and I can tell you there is a big difference in their willingness to, like, okay, I came from a generation where we questioned everything. You couldn't tell me anything without me going, no, let me look into that. This generation, they hear something and go, oh my God, I can't believe that. And I'm like,
fair.
You just took that information and you're like, it's fact? And they're like, yep, it's good. It came from this reputable source.
Great.
But that's not everybody.
Well, no, I mean, this is from experience. I'm not talking about everybody. I'm just saying I've seen a lot of people.
I know you have, and let's also disclaim that he did. Most of the college people he's seen recently was Tulane.
I worked at Tulane.
They were either high or something.
Yeah.
They were
once again, which brings me into their intelligence.
They were gone.
Completely.
But I hear stories about judges now, big judges, people in Congress who used to blow coke in college and stuff. I mean, it's the same stuff.
If you want my blunt opinion, I think 70% of this country is ignorant. I think that's just the way it is.
I personally think everyone's ignorant because, like I said, you can't be smart in every subject.
I wouldn't say no. You're saying you're using the wrong word again. Ignorance is you're unwilling to. Okay, if I run into something that I don't know and understand, I'll say, I'm not really knowledgeable on that subject, but I'll look into it.
Not every subject. Not every subject. There's certain subjects we want.
If
and
there's
that's
a
why
subject,
we're all ignorant.
Well, I'm saying if there's a subject for some, I have a reason to learn.
Yeah, if you're interested, but if you're not interested,
I don't have a reason to learn welding right now. It's not useful to me. It's not. I can find someone who is a good welder, and kudos to him. Not knocking welders. I don't have any reason to be a welder.
Like same thing. I would never take up the.
I did.
Scissors.
I thought it was interesting. I learned to cut hair.
That's not something I want to do.
Also, not a lay floor, fix computer. Why? Because it was interesting. But my point is, you're the same way. You don't even realize it. If there's something you want to learn to do, you'll learn.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think I'm saying it's something I want to do, but there's a lot of stuff I don't want to do.
Yes, exactly.
And that's why I would say ignorant in those.
Yes,
realms.
but my point is, what I was talking about ignorance is ignorance of facts in general. Okay, there's a whole generation right now complaining that they don't know how to do their taxes, change a tire, and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. I've heard that argument. I'm like, no one taught us that either. But I wanted to know how to change a tire. Guess what I did? I asked somebody, could you show me how to change a tire?
Right, but you also misconstrued because, I'll say that. I'm like, man, they didn't teach us to do taxes. But what I really mean, I don't really say what they didn't teach us. I say they should teach newer generations to do that because a lot of math or courses we did in high school, I've yet to use today.
We're getting into a whole other subject.
Yeah,
because
well,
I'm just saying, if you want to talk taxes, I'll say I don't agree with the current tax system. And
that's a different topic.
Yeah, about to say because if the government's going to force you to pay all these taxes, I think you should pay for my tax expert.
Okay, so Brady, your path on enlightenment.
Sorry,
you just jumped 4 topics.
Actually, it's still very on topic. The topic would be ignorance, and ultimately the highest aspiration is to rid yourself of ignorance, such as enlightenment. So ultimately, that's a great sociological outlook on the whole debate discussion that we're here for today, really. Ignorance is the choosing to not learn something past something. So humans are fundamentally good. They always will be. That's humans. People think not, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, good will always get to the finish line. So humans will always get there eventually.
So
whether they have to destroy themselves in the process. Upon doing something you know is not good, you plant a seed of wisdom. So within planting those seeds of wisdom, any seed planted, given enough, will always bloom. So even though generations and generations are screwing things up, eventually this is for a reason, as to bring about the deeper understanding for us as a human society.
So where do you think the bad comes from? The evil, the
Ignorance. It's the not understanding of the truth. The truth would be the care, the wanting to care. That's enlightenment. Enlightenment is the I'm in this moment and what is around me, what is going on, and how can I benefit this for the long term.
So how do you think we could get people to want to get themselves out of ignorance?
So what I've done with myself, and this is just how I've done it. I've always been super impressionable, and so I took the direction of saying, okay, well, I'm going to rid myself and I'm going to get to this path. What can I do? What can Brady do? Because that's the only person that I'm in charge of. And that's the only person that I can be in charge of. What can I do as a person? Well, I knew that I didn't like my weight. So I said, you know what? What is good for me in terms of weight? So you have an itch, you have to scratch the itch.
Universal back scratcher over there.
What you resist persists, everybody. So ultimately I said, okay, well, what is good for my health? So I started drinking green tea every day. Green tea is a perfect example of choosing what's good for you. And I said, okay, I'm going to add green tea, at least 1 cup every day, because ultimately it has antioxidants.
What kind of green tea?
Any type of green tea that you can get.
So,
green tea.
Like green tea from Walmart, like that.
I wouldn't
No,
go...
say, like, are you brewing your own green tea?
Yeah,
or you buy bottled green tea?
Many different ways. So it's been an overarching storyline of green tea throughout the years.
You evolved through the green tea.
Yes, I have. And I have favorites.
Too?
Yes.
I feel like you...
I'm
I'm not asking you
one
for
with
I
the
feel
little
like you
tea
do
set.
have... Yeah, no, he would have the J, like,
That's
Chinese
what I'm
sets.
talking
Like,
about.
he
I
would.
have one. I have a set from Japan. I have it.
I know you
it's
do.
Awesome.
I've literally
Hey,
had
it was a
green
gift.
tea every type of way, and if y'all have a type of green tea that I have not tried, or a type of arrangement of green tea, please let me know, because I want it. But then ultimately I let go of something that was bad for me, and that was sugar. So I didn't want sugar, and that helped inflammation in my
Sugar,
body.
the bane of America.
So here's the great conundrum. If humans were to look at it with what could they do in any situation that is good, and they're going to add that, they're going to add good, and then they're going to look at what is bad, and they're going to subtract bad. Now, what is good and what is bad is truly the human side of where things come from. Humans are a perfect middle, because ultimately we are the only things that decide morality. Everything else just exists in its natural state, and things happen as they happen. We are the only ones that say, well, this is bad, this is good.
That we know of.
Well, that we
Most
know
people-
of.
well, most people base their morality off of their personal religion, unless you're not religious, which was a question we actually had a religious episode where that was actually one of the topics. Where, well, one of the things we brought up was, what about an atheist? Where does their morality come from? It has to come from something.
It comes from humanity.
Exactly. But where does humanity evolve that from? Because there was a time when a lot of things that are morally accepted now morally unaccepted. That's all changed. It's changed over hundreds and thousands of years.
I don't agree with pedophiles, but it is kind of funny when you look back on the Greeks, the Romans,
Right.
and
Yeah.
that was
The morality
smiled
changed.
upon of.
Right.
You would mess with little
And
boys.
even
It was a
now-
way of life,
Right.
but now it's like it's against it, and it's like
Well, actually, that's what I was going to say. Recently, people are trying to make the argument for it again. Because the argument now, the standpoint now that was pushed is love is love.
well, yeah, because
So now pedophiles jumped in and
piggyback
said,
on
wait,
that.
love is love. What about us?
They piggyback on
now
the gay
that's
rights
now
movement.
people are like, whoa. We're not sure if we
Yeah.
want y'all to be a part of
Because
it.
that's what they did. I don't know if you saw that.
That's a recent
They
thing.
did the whole it was clever. Like I said,
Right. Well,
it's
a loophole.
Yeah, it was really clever because y'all just got the gay marriage passed
Right.
across the United States, and then you see a picture of this silhouette of a guy leaning on a knee, like holding a girl, and they're both got the rainbow's colors, and it's like, well, love is love, and it's like, oh, so that's what you're trying to do.
Right.
Well, it was, and just putting this out there, put all the points out there. That was argued by one particular side for a long time. They said, well, this is the path that they thought that would lead down, and
It hasn't led down there.
well, it's getting there. That's what I'm saying. There's people right now making an argument.
Yes,
for
and
that.
they are.
They're saying legally you shouldn't be allowed to get us in trouble for being pedophiles, blah blah blah, and mostly because this is where the loopholes come in. Because, like you said, they're using loopholes.
Yeah.
They were saying transgender. Okay, one of the arguments they're making is that even little kids should get to decide their gender. So the argument pedophiles were making was, if the kid can choose their gender, they can also choose to love me, and if love is love, then that's okay. So they were trying to use a bunch of loopholes, and it's like, you're trying to get creative there, but still, I don't know if that's really morally right.
Like they should win
But-
a Grammy for jumping to all.
Yeah,
they
wow,
jumped through hoops.
that's a lot of hoops you went there.
We do.
Okay, good. So I'm gonna address the first thing first. So ultimately, we said, well, where does morality come from?
Yeah.
So like I said, like, humanity will get there eventually, whether they have to destroy themselves in the process. They're here
Purified through
specifically
fire.
to learn what is good and what is bad. That is ultimately humanity's destiny, is to understand. So, upon doing that, is, like you said, the Greeks, the Romans, blah, 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 they did things that were wrong, but weren't looked at as wrong, and it evolved over time. We realize that that's not right. So ultimately, humans will fundamentally, over time...
Well, some of the world realizes.
Well, they'll get there eventually.
I say we still got a lot of the world still doing it.
If they destroy themselves in the process, ultimately they can't come back and say, well...
I feel like you're going with Darwinism.
Well, it's a very... I mean, truly, you can look at the ecosystem. Ultimately, eventually, if we decide... like the straws thing. Straws were getting so out of hand that companies said, you know what? It's not even a hipster millennial thing. It's a genuine, oh my God, there's straws in every sea turtle's nostrils that we see. This isn't okay. Like, eventually, humanity will continuously do the quote-unquote bad things and plant seeds of wisdom until all of those things come to fruition, and then there's the understanding of, oh, wow, we really screwed that over. Let's not do that.
So, question for you, just while we're in that topic, because we're talking about
For
like
sure.
the straw situation. Okay, so would you say, like, if one country, a whole country, say America completely decides to ban straws and goes completely green. Let's just say America went completely green, as green as you could get.
How amazing.
But say China, India, and all these other countries increased theirs threefold. Do you think we would be morally obligated to do something about that?
So that's a perfect discussion topic, because that actually is going on in my life. I live with my parents, and I love my parents, and I love living with my parents. My mom is disabled, and my little sister is 9, and my dad is a charter boat captain. So really, I'm a third parent.
You said tugboat captain?
Charter boat.
Charter boat. Okay, sorry.
So ultimately, I'm a third parent. And I, in myself, am learning, because the level of love that I have for my mother extends so far to where I care about how she impacts the ecosystem. She bought plastic knives and forks today, and plastic plates, and I have been begging on my hands and knees, not joking, on my hands and knees, please do not buy these anymore. These pollute the very thing that she absolutely loves, which is the ocean. I said, see this picture of this sea turtle that we have on the wall? This is eventually going to hurt this sea turtle. And ultimately, I'm trying to understand is it morally correct? Because me and my mother, we're our relationship's very interesting. We're very loud people to each other. So it seems like we're fighting very intensely, but it's just discussion.
Usually it's just passionate. People are very passionate.
We're very passionate.
That happens with a family.
Right. And to any family where people are passionate, they're alphas, and people are, especially when you get a big group of alphas together.
And when they're two, like my dad and my brother. My dad's a hardcore Republican. My brother's a hardcore liberal.
We're trying to get them on the show, guys.
Oh, well, my brother moved to Colorado today.
Oof.
But you should have saw that house.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
interesting nights sometimes growing up, hearing them go at it, especially in high school when he got in the debate team and all that. Oh my god.
See, now, what you're saying, like in your house, see, that's a thing that actually reminds me of like what's going in the world. Because the difficult part, like right now, Republicans, Democrats, they both have what they believe is moral. And they both have completely different beliefs on what is moral. And those two are conflicting with each other. And that's the interesting part to me. And that's actually one of the reasons we started the show, is because communication broke down. People aren't talking anymore.
Right.
They completely shut another person's opinion down just because
That's
they're like,
evil
they're like, nope, I don't want to hear you shut your dirty mouth because I don't like your opinions. And it's like, you don't even know what my opinions are.
I think I've come to the understanding that good is progress and bad is regression.
I think we can all agree on that.
So ultimately, like, the whole thing with I don't enjoy shouting in any type of way. I mean, it ultimately goes against my every practice. I wish to be a more calm person. Why am I shouting about how upset I am about these plastic forks and knives? But I'm passionate about it because I know
just get you too.
and they just know how to get you.
Yeah.
So
they know you too well. They can get under your skin.
that perfectly is synonymous with the whole, well, what can we do truly to like wake up? Like, ultimately, all we can do is do what I'm doing. I'm not doing this. I'm going to tell you that I'm not doing this.
And you're going to try to educate them.
And I'm going to try and educate you. I'm going to try and have understanding. Because that's where things come from.
Exactly. And I like that.
I do too.
Educating
History
people.
shows kind of different.
Yes.
I feel, because history, I feel like every time we've made changes as a human race, there was always something tragic that happened that caused it.
Right.
And I feel like that's the path we're going to end up going down.
Correct.
And
that's human.
We're kind of, and I don't want the world to destroy, but I also don't agree with, like, I don't know if you know
it
about,
won't be destroyed.
I don't know if you know about, like, the Green New Deal, and, like, I didn't agree with a lot of that. And
I don't know what you're talking about.
Ocasio-Cortez, one of the Congress people from New York City, she introduced a massive overhaul of American infrastructure that was going to cost more. It was going to, quadruple? They said it was going to be more money than there is in America.
She wanted to put solar panels on every single house.
She wanted every single business.
She wanted
to pretty much be torn down, like the buildings, and be built completely renewable green energy.
See, that's not looking at it with understanding.
And that's why
that was the argument.
And the thing about that is, when I say I disagree, I get attacked from the other side. I'm just like, it's not that I don't want us to go down that path, but I also don't want us to sacrifice everything we have.
Progress.
And then we did it, but we're fine.
Yeah, you had some people that were like, no, it's completely honorable and respectful to wish to make the world a better place, but we do have to do it without self-destructing, first of all. It's like, because the plan would literally destroy us. Yeah, one of her arguments was she literally wanted to get rid of farting cows. Yeah. Not a joke. She wanted to get rid of farting cows.
She wanted restricted one car per family.
Yeah.
Well, cows are a very interesting, very important discussion for me. So ultimately, I'm gonna.
It's okay. You can just say it. Get it out.
Ultimately, the best thing that you can do to make progress go forward is to always incorporate compassion in everything that you do. Compassion is the highest wisdom.
So what about people taking advantage of your compassion?
I had a great conundrum with this the other night, actually. It is more admirable to be a flower that does not grow thorns when stepped on, to be beautiful to all the others that are not stepping on you, than to grow thorns and grow cold and shell yourself off. Now, it is not wise to shell yourself off from everyone. It is important to have valuable, wise friends and people that you surround yourself with. There are two types of people in the world. There are children and there are adults. Children are ignorant. Children do things that are bad for them and they don't care. Adults learn and they understand and they wish for progress.
Which goes back to what we were talking about earlier with letting children make decisions for themselves. Clearly, you shouldn't let a child make decisions for themselves because they would be self-destructive.
So, furthering that, so in Buddhism, even the whole, like, if everybody wants to call it a religion, let's say it is a religion, because it's not, but it is. It could be.
Okay, so America recognizes it as a religious organization, but
Correct.
technically they do not declare themselves.
It is a practice.
Yeah.
But looking at its code of ethics is very important because it has a very well shelled out code of ethics in every aspect. It pushes for progress in every aspect, at least in the terms of that it uses understanding and compassion within every decision made. So you can look at this with any issue in today's society. The whole pedophile. Sexual misconduct is defined as a sexual practice, which sex in Buddhism is permitted, but also look at sex in a understanding light, in a mindful way. What is sex? Why do you need sex? We don't truly need sex. So let's do sex in a right way. Well, what does that mean? Well, sexual misconduct is wrong. Sexual misconduct is defined as sexual acts that go against the human's rights, that is against a law, because a law abiding is very important. But then you can say, well, do you abide by a law that is evil? Because there can be evil laws.
Sure.
Ultimately, only you can decide, and you inherently know, or at least you think you know. And if that ends up being wrong, you'll find out eventually. It always does come, the truth always comes to light in all aspects. So, sexual misconduct should be viewed as anything that is against the law or against a human's right. And I would say that humans do have the right to choose their gender. However, I don't believe that humans, specifically children, have the life experience to choose to be in a sexual relationship with someone much older than them who knows right from wrong.
How do you feel about the age of them choosing their gender?
Yeah, at what point do you think they should be able to make the choice to do a irreversible, life-changing surgery and hormone therapy? I mean, because as you know, if they do it
is
early on, it can
Because
be...
my view on a lot of things is, and I'm 22, I don't think I should be drinking yet. I don't think I should, and I don't.
Yeah, I stopped.
I don't smoke anything, but I don't think I should be doing any of that until my brain is fully developed.
Totally, I agree.
With that being said, you do have teenagers who are going through something much more drastic, the gender change, transitioning over, and causing that. That is like the new stuff, but the medicine is so new. I feel like that's not a lot of people have done it. That we don't know what's going to affect them when they're later on in life. Like menopause comes up.
Right.
And there also is a large group of people who are growing up saying they regretted those choices.
Right.
And that's not everybody. We're not saying everybody.
Yeah, I'm not saying
there
everybody
are
does
a good bit of them saying, I wish I
There
had
is a
never
lot.
done
And they
this.
said they wish they would either waited or that they hadn't done it at all. And there's a large group that, of course, there's the same group saying
That they wish they would have done it when they were 5.
Right.
And I do understand that, but I also think patience is a virtue for... And I know I don't know, I don't feel that way, but I also think...
I mean, I can think back to when I was 5, and if I was making
But
decisions for myself, I'd be
it's
like,
not
oh,
even
thank
that,
God I
but
didn't do that.
Yeah.
Me personally, I'm willing to sacrifice something if it means helping other people to a certain extent, if that makes sense. Because I know later on I can get that done in life.
Have you ever seen the movie That's My Boy? Adam Sandler movie?
I think
Yes.
so.
Yeah, you remember how y'all stupid thing? He's like, but you wanted to do that. He's like, I was a kid. Yeah. He's like, why would you let me do that?
So,
I'm diabetic. I eat
but
sugar
I do
all the
understand,
time.
like, some people are like, well, that's like waiting in the closet. And I'm like, I understand that. But it's not just your life you're going to... That is going to mess up.
Right.
Because the worst thing to do is... Especially when they make it laws. Like, there's some...
Right.
Canada...
Well, especially, like, when you haven't gone through puberty yet. Like, you're not even
exactly,
sexually
like
developed
Canada,
yet. You don't even understand where you lie sexually.
There was a case in Canada where the family... Well, the dad...
They took the kid away from the father.
Yeah, the dad didn't... the son was telling the dad, I don't like dressing like a girl. mommy's making me dress like a girl. And he's like,
Well,
I'm not
okay,
gonna...
so we'll clarify.
Different case.
No, that's the same case. The dad said that. They both were saying the mom and the dad were both claiming the mom was claiming
I think it's a different case.
Is it Canada?
We didn't talk about this one.
Okay, go ahead.
So when it came to court, Canada's a little different. They asked him about that, and the kid said, "Well, I don't want to." And it was funny because of the fact that there was no repercussions for the mom for what she did, because her mom was trying to transition, and the reason why she thought that, or quote unquote thought that, was because one day he was like, "I want to feel pretty," and that's the thing. That's another thing that worries me. Like, what if it's not even the extreme, but like, kind of, what if a kid says, "I want to feel pretty," or "I want to feel like a girl"? I don't want to be a girl,
Right.
but I've been a boy for 5 years. What's a girl feel like?
I got a 2-year-old that put on my wife's shoes.
Because we are curious.
Right. Doesn't mean.
And one big thing about me is wording. I feel like wording is everything.
Totally.
I feel like if you say something, you should know what you are saying. Not all the time. We're humans, we're joking around. But if you're gonna say something, like comment something opposing somebody, and you use wrong wording, and it's used against you, but you're like, I didn't mean that, but you did mean that because you put it. If you didn't, you shouldn't put that if you don't know.
I'm just not sure if a child is capable of even expressing thoughts clearly enough. Thoughts,
they
opinions,
are, and they're
feelings.
not. That's the tricky part. They are, and they're not. And that's where the issue becomes, is you really have to look at it circumstantially and with compassion. You have to say, well, okay, well, you don't always know. You really don't. You don't always know if this is going to be that one child that regretted it, or this is going to be that one child that needed it. You don't know.
No,
So
you're absolutely right.
I think it's very important to where we at least need to have proper screening, medical screening, mental screening that is always updated.
Are you referring to, because I saw this one study that was referring to men that are trapped in women's bodies, and vice versa, that their brains,
yes, I've seen that.
The brain sizes and wavelengths were operating different. I saw that study. I saw 2 studies with that, but I only seen, like I said, maybe 2, and I looked for it, but there was only 2 that said that. So, are you referring to that? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I would definitely
because
say...
I do know there's medical, like you said, medical tests. Sorry, I blanked out. To test that, but they're so undeveloped right now.
And hormones. Some people are born with different hormones. I was born with a lot of estrogen. Mm-hmm. My mom had a lot of estrogen whenever she was pregnant with me. So, I mean, people could say all types of things of how I've developed as a person. But I do have to say, I think I'm hormonally balanced. I don't know. Hormones are a very interesting topic because hormones come into play in puberty, and what does that do? Mm-hmm. So I just truly think that more medical research needs to be developed, screened, used, and I think it all just needs to be situational. I think the fact that humanity is at least swinging in both directions is good, because like I said, we progress by constantly retrying things out. You can't learn something if you don't do it. So ultimately, humanity is trying to learn the boundary on when it's allowed and when it's not allowed. So I think ultimately a diagnosis test would be the most important, at least starting point. And I have friends who go through so much to get that mental diagnosis test. So, but then the socioeconomical conundrum comes up of, well, how does all of these people who needs this, thing get this thing? Because not everybody can afford that.
It's kind of funny because, you got Medicaid and Medicare for kids and stuff like that, and they go to doctors for free. But you don't see a lot of that offered for psychology, like for kids to go see a therapist. And I often want, since graduating and all that, I've been thinking about that. I'm like, man, like, you think you would have kids go see a therapist, like, even if it's like once every 6 months, you think that would be almost like part of school activity or something. Not saying school should be responsible, but
well, I did see a case also where they did send a child to a therapist to talk with them about transgender.
Not just transgender.
Well, no, that was just this case. This was a transgender issue, And actually, the dad made a complaint. He said the therapist was actually more trying to convince the child.
Right.
Well, that's another.
And that this person, well, that was, I know, it's just interesting because it turned out like this person was a big advocate for transgender rights and stuff
I don't
like
want
that.
to say that's
Their
malpractice.
bias was leaking into their work.
Yeah, it's almost malpractice.
Yeah,
I mean, to sway anybody in any direction when you're supposed to be a neutral party is.
So that's just that's kind of like the whole Border Patrol thing. Like, oh, ICE is treating them bad. We should get rid of them. Like,
here's an interesting one. This was in the news recently. I just heard this. Were they religious or a psychiatrist? Can't remember.
Let me finish that thought. I don't want to leave off.
Okay, no, I'm sorry.
But like, they're saying like ICE is bad, so we should get rid of the Border Patrol. I'm like, no, that's just people not doing their job. Like, it's horrible what they did, but that's not people. That's people.
Wait, what'd they do?
Like not supplying food for migrants there that they should be, and that they're not treating them right. They're mistreating them.
Well, clarify. You got to clarify.
I saw this this article on how lawyers ruled that 3 unnecessary objects for children are a toothbrush, a blanket, and soap. Unnecessary. I would say that
okay, so we'd have to look into that because I read that and I heard the thing.
But my whole point was that's not everybody. That's just some people not doing their job. That's the wrong. It's a different topic.
Correct.
And that's why I just want to say that's a different topic. I'm not saying.
But I guess the reason
ignorance.
I guess the reason why they now I thought about that too because look at that, just got back from Honduras, right? And I was thinking about that. I was trying to ponder that in my head because another argument somebody said was, "Oh my God, these people, they don't even have air conditioning." And I was like, wait a minute. I just came back from Honduras. Nobody uses air conditioning. They don't do it.
World.
Yeah, I'm like, y'all are thinking first world problems. I'm like, most of these people, like when I was there were people living under bridges in out of shacks they made out of garbage. I mean, literally. They're bathing in the water that just runs down like a creek, a canal. I mean, it's not even clean water. And I'm like, y'all are still thinking of this in a first world way.
Well,
like most of these people, what they have here is probably still pretty good to them.
A lot of people who also think like not a lot of people. But people who think like that.
I'm not saying we can't do better for them.
That's the thing. They're like, well, we are a first world. We shouldn't treat them like they're still in a third world, even if they're coming over like that.
No, I agree. That's what I'm
my
saying.
whole point was like, some of them are being mistreated, and that makes the news a lot. And because of that, people are like,
yes,
we should just let them in or stuff like that. But I'm like, wait, that's a different topic because we need to focus. Before we get to that, let's focus on the people
you've stated the problem.
Who are hurting.
What I'm saying is like you stated a problem.
Yeah.
Your problem was you think they should have better conditions there. Okay, so that's easy fix. Supply more money, we can give them better conditions. But that wasn't the argument we made. They're like, no, we should let. Yeah, they jumped to no, we should just let them in. Yeah, wait, that doesn't fix the problem.
I mentioned that. That in the abortion episode we did because I asked because someone was she brought up tying tubes, like women can't tie tubes till they're 25 or unless they're married. I'm like, wait, but isn't that a different topic because of the fact that they're like we don't have the right to? I'm like, well, why don't y'all fight for that?
Yeah,
that's a different topic, and that's what I feel. Sometimes we see something and then we jump to another topic. We skip over that.
Yeah, sometimes sometimes people throw a topic because of the shock and awe.
And I'm like,
it'll get attention. This will get attention, and that's what they do. Well, that's the same argument that was made. It's like, oh, these horrible conditions. Okay, but those same conditions were in place 8 years ago. You didn't say anything then. Why?
Well, it depends
on
the
thing
thing
now.
too.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. There are people that were. I'm not saying there were advocates.
Well, not just that.
There were
but you
advocates
also
at
have,
the border who were
like
who were
8 years ago. Me and you were. We didn't know crap about politics at that time. We were focused on anime.
Yeah, honestly.
You had new generations coming up like, wait, this has happened. What's wrong? It's like, oh, this has happened so long.
Yes, but I'm saying,
like, wait, but I'm
saying our elected politicians in government now were here. Some of them have been in office for 50 years. I mean, they're old. I'm just saying, like, they were there, and now they're the ones making a big deal out of it. There's also the recent push because, and I'm just going off of the news. This is strictly me going off of the news. Okay, there was a push recently about getting more money. And it's been a while. Humanitarian crisis at the border. We need more money for the border. People kept saying there wasn't a crisis at the border. And they were like, no, clearly we have a crisis at the border. And they're like, nope, no crisis. You're making this up. Now, they're like, there's a crisis at the border. What are y'all doing? It's like, wait a minute. We've been saying this for weeks. There was a crisis at the border. Why are you pretending there's one now and trying to act like you discovered it?
Right.
Like now you're trying to hijack this point. And I'm like, y'all gotta. Everybody's got to stop playing politics, okay?
Yeah.
There's an issue here, and when it becomes a humanitarian issue, that's when it's like, okay, politics needs to stop.
Right. Let's talk about
these people.
It's funny because, like, you don't want to be like, well, Well, you do. You're like, when did that start?
What?
You know, like, when did playing politics really become like that? Like, you know, when the founding fathers made it.
I've looked into that. I've looked because I'm very curious. There was a time. There was a yeah, but that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
So there was a time when you didn't say I'm running for office. Like your town came to you, your town came to you and said we're gonna push you up for office. And it's like, no, I really don't want to. They're like, no, we like you. You're a good guy. The town loves you. We respect you.
Right.
We
It
like
wasn't
your idea.
shady. Like I gotta trick all these people into
Yeah.
liking me.
Yeah.
How can I do it?
Yeah. Now it's what do you want? I want $1 million. Done.
Done.
Vote for me.
Vote for me. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, if you're just gonna tell everybody you're gonna give them everything their heart desires. I mean, the fact of the world is, if you give everybody everything they want, everyone would lose.
Totally.
That's just the way it works.
Most definitely. There's not enough resources and not enough.
Yeah, we can't all be billionaires. We can't all be rich.
Ultimately, like, I'm so out of politics. It's very interesting. Like, so like my point of view is so neutral for the reason of I just have not done my research. So it's simply out of the ethics of my heart and how like I think things should go. And I would like to say that I'm a decent person. And I think that's all it can boil down to is, well, the people that are running, are they decent people? And
I think most people think like you do. I think most people don't want to get in politics.
And that's good.
Me and him were talking about that recently. Every now and then, you just have to stop. You stop.
Yeah, I've been taking a break from politics.
It'll give you a headache.
Not even that, but sometimes you just listen to it like, wow, like, are we really that bad off?
Right.
And then you walk outside and you're like...
And it's not that bad, but also it probably is.
It's not bad in your area, but then you also
that's
think
where you
like...
feel. That's where the guilt comes in. Because like when I had a kid, that was when I was like, maybe I should start pay attention to what's going on in the world.
Yeah,
like,
but
I'm raising a kid here.
It's not even like my issue is not even like what's going on with the world. Yeah, like that's the main issue. But I think the truly main issue is we have people bickering. It's kind of like when your parents are fighting and then
right.
At the end of the day,
progress.
But at the end of the day, your leg is still cut. No one's fixing that.
Right. There's
no
still
Like,
progress.
let's stop the fight and take care of the kid.
Yeah.
Let's take care of the issues. And
that's what I said. That was the big thing, is because it's funny because it sounded like both sides recently were talking about the same thing. It's like, you're both talking about the same thing. Let's just get to work on it, guys. And I think a lot of that comes into the greed and selfishness, though, just because they're like, well, if we fix it now, it'll look like this side fixed it, and then we don't want to give them a win. It's like, wow.
Right.
Can't we just call this a win for the country, not just you or your side?
I'm just happy, like, what Jon Stewart did.
Exactly.
Like,
that's what I thought.
like
that was fully bipartisan, and I'm like, why is this even a discussion?
Yeah.
This is right, and everyone knows it's right. If you walked up to anybody in the street and asked them, do you think we should? Like, they'd be like, absolutely.
But like you said, though, they don't want to give it to the other party.
They don't want it to be a win for the other side. Everybody wants to sabotage the side that's in power at the moment. And that's a big
Which
problem.
that's another thing. I don't agree with that. I know we're going politics. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine.
Perfect. I don't think like
I think it ties into the.
I'm talking about humanity.
Well, yeah. If we go back to humanity, like I don't think politics really agree with humanity. If you think about like if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican. So my whole thing about that is, oh, the Republicans did this. No. A few select of them did. Not all Republicans did that.
Yeah, and same thing for Democrats. Not all Democrats.
Yes, correct.
You hear about the mainstream ones. Like everybody talks about AOC and she's this, she's stupid, whatever. And I'm like, yes, but not all Democrats.
Why are we saying Republicans doing that? Why don't we just say that person did it or that group of people did that? Because
I fully agree with that.
If we do that, I feel like the parties will still matter to the people who it matters to, but it will also lessen the bickering, and we can probably get more to the solutions of problems.
Totally. Well, I think it definitely coincides with everything, because ultimately my statement on everything is if Republicans were a little bit more humanitarian at times, and if Democrats were a little bit more monetarily conservative at times, everything would be better.
Also, that like you said, like that's what I'm saying. One side tends to try to pull emotion out of things. One side tries to pull logic out of things. And if they both met in the middle, which is kind of more of a libertarian view, which is kind of we should all just get the.
It's not even that, but like, I feel like didn't they grow up with compromises? Like I feel like they always talk about our generation just get everything you want, but
right.
like, aren't y'all the ones that are fighting for.
So did you? But
Right.
this is the thing that tripped me out. Like I said, y'all been out of this for a little bit, but I just heard this the other day. So they had the 2020 Democratic debate thing that just came in.
Dude,
it was completely dog
right.
eat dog. They were eating each other alive.
I didn't watch it.
So Joe Biden, they ate Joe Biden alive because they asked him. He worked with because he was a Democrat, but there was some segregationists and stuff that were still around at that time, and they were like, you worked with segregationists, and he was like, well, I had to work with them in order to get compromise and work toward this goal. He's like, that don't mean I agreed with their opinions, and they're like, no, it doesn't matter. You worked with them, and he's like, no. I mean, that's the way politics works. Sometimes I got to give a little in order to gain a little,
Right.
and make things work out. And they're like, no, you should have just been. He's like, well, then I wouldn't. Nothing would have gotten done. I would have accomplished nothing. Like,
I think politics are very important because, as I said,
If we weren't here to go through the lessons and go through the nonsense, we wouldn't learn. So I think it's very important to butt heads because at the end of the day, you can only butt heads for so long. And it's a make or break situation, honestly.
So do you mean like an individual can only butt heads for so long?
I'm talking overall in general.
Okay,
In
I'm not
all
saying
aspects.
the issue with that is the people who are butting heads are retiring, and then you have them going,
Right.
wait, no, y'all need to keep butting heads,
Right.
like keep going up.
So
or
do you-
retired.
So do you think it would fix it if like my personal belief is I think people in Congress, senators, and all that stuff, I think they're in office too long. I think if we constantly had fresh people in there, it may get rid of some of the making a career out of this mentality that
Right.
people are, which
I
is
think it's
changes.
worth a try.
Yeah, I think that would. I think it. My personal belief. I think it encourages the bad behavior. Because when you say I want to be successful in politics, that's I don't think that's a good way to say things.
Right.
Like if you're
Right.
successful in politics, that
You're
just
doing
means
something sketchy.
you're trying to maintain power. You're not trying to do what's good for people.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean that's just me. But
A politician, if everything was peaceful, would not need a job.
yeah, it wouldn't be necessary.
Correct.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like, my viewpoint is the whole you can only butt heads for so long, and that's in everything. That's in your individual life. That's how you think about every single thing. You can only continuously do something that doesn't give a fruitful result for so long before you no longer have a fruit, and that's when ultimately it dies off. So ultimately, with everything, unless we make progress in some way, it will destroy itself. So ultimately, good is good all the time, and everything will lead to good because if we have to destroy ourselves because we just can't figure out how to be decent, then we didn't deserve to exist in the first place because we couldn't have learned.
Yeah, self-destructive.
It's the fact of what Mark, and what I am doing. Sitting down, caring. It's the caring that really makes the difference.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I tell people. When you stop the talking, when you stop communicating, you stop caring about the other person. They become nothing to you.
Correct.
And therefore, like a big pet peeve of me is these groups that go and just want to fight each other. These groups that just show up and start attacking random people. And it's funny because sometimes I remember that one situation. That guy came out and they attacked him, and he was yelling, "I'm a Democrat." He's like, "Y'all are attacking me, and I'm a Democrat."
Right.
And he got mad about it. I just thought that was funny. That was just one situation. I mean, you have the other side too, of course.
I mean, you had Antifa beating each other up, which was hilarious.
Yeah, I mean that situation was like Antifa attacking people, and I was like,
well, they went to attack people, and then it was two sides of Antifa,
Oh my
and
god.
they really just ended up beating each other up. Which I thought was hilarious because I mean,
yeah, but that's exactly it. Like they flat out a person will walk up to them and be like, "Actually, I want to talk to you about you," and they're like, "No, don't talk to them. Don't just ignore them. They're not here." And I'm like, "Okay, that's ignorance at its finest. You don't even want to communicate with me. Like I'm not yelling. I'm here talking to y'all. There's way more y'all here than I am, and I just want to talk to y'all." And vice versa. I mean, I didn't like when Donald Trump was throwing people out of his rallies and stuff like that. I'm like, you have a million people in here, and there's one guy out there with a different opinion, and you want to throw him out? I'm like, come on.
Right.
I'm like, you should bring him up on stage.
Right.
No, that guy should be on the stage
If you're so well developed in your opinion, you should be able to be challenged.
Yes. I feel like if you're not comfortable with your position enough to have it challenged, then maybe you should look more into your position because you're obviously not that comfortable with it.
That brings me perfectly into the 6 perfections of Buddhism. So this is what makes it so sublime of a practice, and why I believe at least taking the understandings of all of these things can progress humanity. Ultimately, knowing the differentiations of states, good versus bad. So like we talked about, now we kind of understand like, okay, well really progress is how we're trying to be. Well, in order to get progress, certain things sort of need to be conducted. They need to be done to make and to uphold those practice and that progress. So truly, the six perfections are the perfections of wisdom, diligence, discipline, charity, concentration, meditation, and that's it because I can't count. So that's six. But
I was sitting there in my head.
I know, right. If y'all are counting at home, that was 6. But ultimately, why I'm pivoting into this is so we've understood that, okay, well, we can talk about it all day. We can talk about everything that's wrong in the world. We can talk about it. But what are we doing to change it?
This podcast.
Get people talking.
Diligence is the energy about caring about something that brings progress. Diligence brings you joy. Happiness is momentary. Happiness comes and happiness goes. It can fade. Joy is lasting. I took my vitamins yesterday. I took my vitamins the day before that. I took the vitamins the day before that. I took my vitamins 5 months before that. I took my vitamins every single day, and that brings me joy because I know that I'm going to age less harshly than others. That is diligence. If we were to do one
Until we find out something
small
about the
thing,
bad about the vitamin world. But
right. Well, that's a whole different conversation. Vitamins are a lot. But I think we need to enact diligence in the aspect. And, like, ultimately, what does that mean? Like, I mean, we can't go run out and fix the world in one day. We can't. There's too many things.
yeah, I agree with that. People
So-
do need to stop thinking that they can do that, too. It's like, okay, we didn't get here all at one moment. We got here a step at a time. We're going to undo it a step at a time.
Correct.
But Mom, God created the earth in 7 days.
Oh,
Right.
that brings me another interesting question I wanted to ask. So, how do you feel about other religions? And not only that, but how do you feel like they all interconnect?
Very fun question. So truly, the fundamentals of Buddhism is the 4 understood truths. There is suffering in this world. Okay, that's the first. The second is there is a path to cessation of suffering. That's 2. There are things that cause suffering. And that's 3. And there's a way to not have suffering, right? And that's what brings enlightenment. Enlightenment is the truest, clarifying of all things that bring suffering. So any religion that practices peace, harmony, love, joy is all beautiful. Now, like, in every aspect, there's always going to be negative aspects because not every single person in a crowd is always going to have the same opinions.
You have extremists in every religion. Even Buddhism, there's some extremists.
Correct. So ultimately, at the end of the day, good is good and bad is bad. Humanity knows, and if it doesn't know, it will find out. So practices that are going on that bring progress are good and are very important and are encouraged to continue. Like I said, we love Jesus. Jesus did something beautiful. We love Buddha. Buddha did something beautiful. Shiva is a beautiful idea. Shiva is a god in Hinduism. He's the destroyer, but the destroyer of all things that hold you back. So that's amazing. I mean, that's so cool. Now, it's just people's beliefs, and I respect people's beliefs. It's funny, like, I love my job, and I love my people that I work with, but I work in a very Christian, very, that's the devil, why are you doing that kind of situation? And I have to look at it with, like, okay, well, at the end of the day, this brings me joy because I know that I'm doing something right. And I know that you're doing something right, too. You're just seeing this differentiation between the two of us that doesn't truly exist.
And that's a problem, too, though, because I never understood that because, you're not supposed to judge in most religions. And I feel like you telling somebody they're going to hell is judging.
Well, yeah, and I think that's a lot of there's a lot of Christians out there who take Christianity the wrong way. Like, first of all, there's some people out there like Ben Shapiro. We were talking about him. He's a devout Jew, and he has certain beliefs, but he also has friends that go against those beliefs. He has personal friends that are. Mm-hmm. He's like, no, I mean, this guy clearly is this way, and I'm this way, and I don't have a problem with him. Because they're most, like Christianity and Judaism, they say the same thing, like, hate the sin, not the sinner. If you believe it's a sin, okay, you hate that.
And not just that, like Jesus, the main thing.
Jesus never
hung
did
out
that.
with hooker, prostitutes, like it's not
Jesus,
like
yeah, exactly, and that was the basis of that. Yeah. It's like, yeah, you're not hating them.
Exactly.
You know, you don't hate them. You're not saying you hate their personality.
And I don't understand where that teaching is lost, because it seems like it's lost in a lot of religions,
right?
Not just Christianity.
It's like an alcoholic. I mean, that doesn't mean you shouldn't abandon the person because a person with alcoholism, you shouldn't completely you're garbage. No, he's an alcoholic. Yes, okay. You don't like that he's an alcoholic. You wish he would stop drinking. Does that mean you hate them? No, but I do think at a certain point, like if you have an alcoholic person and their alcoholism starts to bleed into your life and starts to corrupt things in your life, okay, I may have to put a wall up and separate that from that. But
that's correct discipline.
Yeah.
So discipline is the knowing of what you know is right and keeping yourself within that and keeping yourself from some things that you don't believe is right. My discipline is I started doing vitamins, started drinking green tea. I went vegan because I wanted that for my heart, and I wanted to take part in something that was non-harmful towards all things, and it brought me so much joy. I lost so much weight. It's not about the weight, but it's about the peace.
I would like to know about that. You say you lost a lot of weight.
It's a very, very fun. I'm very healthy.
No, his doctor told him he needs to stop eating.
Well, my doctor told me he wanted me to pretty much take on a vegan diet. Some issue, metabolic syndrome thing, and he was like, "You would probably benefit you." It wasn't that he was like pro-vegan or against animal abuse. None of that. It was just he just said honestly for your health, it would probably be.
Well, I said that kind of laughing manners because when I hear him say that, I imagine he has like a steak right here. It's like, Doc, come on, man. Like, Doc.
It's kind of how the conversation went.
Right. Like, Doc, it's me you're talking to.
I was like, I
got a barbecue to get
live, eat steak, I don't know, Doc. Like, literally. Steak is pretty tasty.
So here's how it perfectly correlates. So, discipline for Brady. I was, I ate, meat, whatever. I started noticing as a kid, like, I really didn't like meat. Like, I was always a chicken nugget over a burger. Like, it just always was. So, like, I already kind of had a natural inclination where, like, I didn't really like meat. So I started eating meat more in, like, high school. And I would get terrible food poisoning every time. I don't know why. The universe and God were just like, you don't want that. And I was like, you're probably right, so thank you. But so I started, the best thing you can do in all things is bring mindfulness and openness to everything. I looked at my life and I said, every time I eat blank, and this doesn't have anything to do with food, this has to do with everything in life. This thing, I'm going to do it. I'm going to continuously do it, and I'm going to notice. Every time I do this thing, how it makes me feel at the end of the day. Whatever act, whatever thing, humans inherently know. And if they don't, they'll lead to their own destruction and they'll learn. They always will learn. There always will be the progression. There always will be progress. So for Brady, I said, okay, well, really, I'm not going to eat beef anymore because beef just sits in my stomach and it just makes me feel gross. Well, really, I was reading like all kinds of things because I love reading. I was like, okay, I'm A positive blood type. Someone told me blood type food. I read blood type food. It said, oh yeah, absolutely. It just doesn't work well with your body. Like, and I was like, that makes so much sense. And I started reading the list of ingredients that just didn't work for me.
Did not know that.
Apparently cashews don't work well with me. I love cashews. I don't really eat cashews anymore because I said, well, I love cashews. I'm going to eat cashews anyway. Because that's what we do. That's what humans do. They choose to put things into their own practice, and that's good. That's inherently good.
Maybe they're trying to discipline their body. Like, fuck you. You're gonna listen to me.
Right. Exactly. But
take these cashews and you like.
Sometimes that works. Sometimes it doesn't work.
I know. Sometimes it doesn't work. I'm still trying, but
You look great. You're fine. But like, ultimately, it started leading to the eventual cutting out of things that I knew didn't work for me. And that's what we need to do in all aspects of
Including
things.
people?
Everyone, not just food. Like, if something doesn't work in society, let's continuously do it until we realize, oh, well, really, that doesn't work.
But that brings me to a point you mentioned to me last night. You said you don't agree with forcing people to do things.
Correct. You can't force anyone to do anything.
Oh, I agree with that. The more you try to force somebody to do something, the more
Correct.
they're going to do the opposite.
So, with that being, let's say the humanity that you just say, we keep doing it until we're destroyed unless we learn, correct?
Correct.
What if half of humanity does and the other half doesn't?
Then they'll destroy themselves.
But what if it causes us to be destroyed in the process?
So do you think do you think the country should just go ahead and split itself in half?
Well, not even. Well, no, not even that. Like, let's say, you have a lot of third world countries who are, like, to say, the pollution, because we're cutting back pollution. We're not doing
we've dropped more than anybody else in China.
We're not doing as much as
that
people
actually overcame our drop.
We're not doing as much as people want us to do, and I understand that. But do you have third world countries that are doing it twice as much as us?
Yeah, they picked up our slack.
What are we gonna force them to stop, or are we just gonna? That's where my question kind of falls into play with your philosophy on not forcing, because I feel like, and this is just my opinion, but I feel like at a certain extent that's kind of like hitting an indestructible object,
right?
It means immovable.
Well, we kind of talked about this last night. Exactly.
Unstoppable force. Yeah, sorry.
I would love to read my response to that, because
go ahead, please.
Perfectly summed it up in that message.
I just wanted to bring it on because
it's very good.
Prepared statements are wonderful.
Oh, Brady's really good with this.
Okay, so
take your time.
I think it was towards the end. I'm looking at it on your phone. It's different because I'm used to.
Well, you can look up on yours too.
So just to wrap up one thing, so I said to answer, like, how do you feel about hunting, blah, blah, blah. We can get into that, but ultimately it boils down to, as long as that person is doing hunting respectfully, not wasting, not overkilling, not killing with anger or ignorance, but out of understanding, like, okay, well, I'm choosing to kill this thing. I know what that means. I'm not just killing to kill.
Yeah, because most hunters, especially here in the South,
correct,
they're going to eat it.
Correct.
It's going to be eaten. You're not just going out there to kill it.
And that's what I found. Most hunters that aren't trophy hunters, and trophy hunting is a different topic, but most hunters, I feel like they respect the meat more than people
correct.
Who are actually saying you shouldn't do that. Like,
right.
And because a lot of them, not a good bit of them, they say, okay, well, this area is overpopulated with this. Let's go ahead and go hunt there.
Right.
And a lot of them do that. You'd be surprised how many of them move around and go,
no, I know. My dad.
The deers are overpopulated in this area. Or let's go over here and let's not go where we usually
Protection orders go into place, and then the area becomes overpopulated, and now you're like, please go hunt them.
Right. Yeah, and so
like
I kind of find it funny because you'll have PETA, who what was once a good organization, I feel.
Maybe,
when
maybe
I was a
once.
Kid,
right, totally.
Like good,
in the 90s,
yeah,
possibly.
And then now I'm just like,
okay, so when they were at the point where they're like, please don't club baby seals, it's like, well, clearly we probably shouldn't.
Right, like let me put my club up because I'm 8 and
yeah. So, but like I said, I think at one point,
it just went a little extreme, right?
But I don't feel like those people in charge right now even know how to hold a rifle,
right?
Have even seen someone take
they don't know of the practice, therefore they can't really think of
because like
practice.
my whole thing is like when that response you gave, like, as long as we're using every aspect, it reminds me of what the Indians did,
right?
Because
the Native Americans.
So oops, I am getting thrown off this show. Y'all good night.
He has my blessing. He's a good noodle, I promise.
Thank you.
I say, if you really want to get technical,
it's all just
if you really want to get technical, they prefer to be referred to by the tribe that they're part of.
Well, the tribes that were in America at that time.
I rock with that.
I'm just saying, because like if you call a Cherokee,
a Native American,
exactly, because if you call one tribe by another tribe, they're like, whoa,
right?
I am not that.
Well, to be fair, for sure,
the Native tribes in America at that time.
It's like calling
when
Chinese
you gave me that
Japanese.
response, I thought of them as in they used every aspect, and most hunters do. There's not a lot that they don't use when it comes to that body,
right?
And it's in the respect. And the rest, I don't know how many of these do, but the few I've talked to, they bury. whatever
That's
they don't
nice.
use, they end up burying. Or another one said that they didn't because whatever they don't use, they like the other animals to come feed off of.
Yeah, you honor it. You try to use whatever you can, and then in some cases,
but
like
it's kind of funny because you don't see the other side willing
Right.
to accept that. They're like, no,
Right.
all animals' deaths are cruelty, and it's like, no, that's not really the case
Right.
because.
It's human ethics just getting in the way. And a human can say, well, I'm moral, so I'm going to say that this is moral. But that doesn't necessarily mean, where does true human morality come from?
So let's talk about the...
Well, let me give you...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to give you the response for everybody. You're all good. So, really, it boiled down to the whole non-forcing people to do things. You can't force anybody to do anything because force is absolutely fundamentally against everything that I really ultimately believe in. If you force anything, it does not work.
Yeah, what's that? It removes, and to put it into constitutional context, liberty. If you do something by force, then you've removed their liberty.
Right. It's right. Human right. Humans have the right to mess up. They do. Let them do it. I mean, ultimately protect yourself. But like we were saying last night, he said, so you're saying we shouldn't force people to do anything, even if it's preventing a terrible act. I said, I am saying that was a very good question. I enjoy questions like that because I usually have a great response. I said, I am saying I cannot force people to do anything. If we were all vigilant and in charge of our own actions and developed skillful action and conduct, there would be no need for anyone to force anyone to do anything. So really, skillful means versus unskillful means is a very important topic in the practice. Skillful are things that lead to progress. Unskillful are things that lead to regression. So, taking your vitamins, that's skillful. Being like, okay, well, really, this isn't a great type of vitamin. Let me stop taking that. That's skillful. That's not being ignorant. Always being willing to adapt and pivot your point of view to better fundamentally suit the reality that we're in. Like early Buddhism is very spiritual based, but also they had their idea of the cosmos, like the planets and blah, blah, blah. Well, Buddhism is a practice. It's not a religion. It's not set. If we gained an absolute understanding of a different type of being, it would absolutely have to be morally discussed. And the whole point of enlightenment is to reach a certain clarity and equanimity, crazy word. Equanimity is basically being at balance, at stasis with everything. Everything is reached at least a fundamental base understanding. So ultimately in society, we are doing that. We are trying to reach a stasis. Conflict reaches a resolution. If there was no conflict, there would be no resolution. So it's important that we're going through these lessons, but it's important that we care. And I think that's the biggest thing, is like the actual caring of it and putting forth the compassion and the understanding for others and where they're at. Because my little sister's 9. If I were to be like, blah, 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 spitting off, because I totally could give people actual fact about why I'm a vegan, things that are just absolutely appalling to me, that we treat animals this way, and I don't agree with that. I could totally be like, you're 9, here's this, let me scar you, but that's wrong. So forcing your opinions on someone is even not wholesome.
See, that's also one of the, that's kind of a little bit off topic, but kind of on topic. See, I'm a big proponent for letting people raise their kids the way that they want to a certain extent, of course. Like something that's actually dangerous for the child, okay, like I'm not going to pay you to do that.
Right.
But I'm saying, like, I feel like our current American government is a little too involved in people and raising their kid the way they raise their kids. I wish they would back off a little and let people kind of do things their own way.
So what I was going to say before, you kind of mentioned it. Like, you don't agree with how we kill the animals, like in the slaughterhouses.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Do you? So there's some slaughterhouses. Not, I won't call them a slaughterhouse, but like what Chris Pratt's doing. Do you know what he's doing?
No.
Okay, so he has lambs that he raised. They are raised to slaughter, but the way he does it is, if you can go to his ranch and see. His ranch is open. They eat, they play, they get bathed, they get loved. And so when it's time to kill one, they get into this room and it's instant kill.
Right.
Well, I mean, I think currently the law does say actually the way you have to slaughter. That's why, like, when they kill a cow, they have that gun that drives it. It's supposed to drive it straight through the head.
But a lot of them aren't. A lot of people. Well, that's what I'm saying. Are you okay with that? Because what he does with that is...
try to say it has to be the most... If you go what's considered for a slaughterhouse to be outside the realm of...
Well, no, I'm not talking about... I'm not really talking about the death part. I'm talking about the way they were being raised.
Yes.
Ultimately...
Because isn't that the main problem
what about Kobe
people
beef?
feel? Because, like, you know, they're all trapped together.
Is that humane or
cage.
inhumane?
Right.
I mean, they get a pretty good life.
It all references to the same thing, honestly. I can choose what I do. I can have dominion over my brain. I can have dominion over my actions, at least to a certain degree. I can choose to not take part. I can tell people that it brings joy to my life to not have that on my conscience. And that's all I can do. I can't shame. Shame is wrong. Mm-hmm. I can't force. Forcing's wrong. At the end of the day, wrong is wrong, and I wish to not do wrong. So why would I counter not doing wrong with doing wrong in a different way?
I see what you're saying. Okay.
So I do not kill mosquitoes. I do not kill ants. I do not kill anything. If I step on something on accident...
Yeah, that's actually a misconception that people believe Buddhists are like tiptoeing around, not stepping on ants. It's
those are Jainists.
Yeah, you didn't consciously step on the ant.
It's the fact of, like, basically the look of it is, I know I'm doing this. I'm smart and I care about what I think. And I'm smart, therefore I'm going to look at it and say, well, really, at the end of the day, was that right? And I could push it back and say, well, whatever. But I know subconsciously that's still going to be there. And if I can't find equanimity with myself, I can't wish for equanimity with everything else. So I choose to not take part in killing. I can say, if you're going to take part, do it in the most humane way.
Okay.
But it is still fundamentally...
Would you do it for your survival?
That was a great question. Someone actually raised me with that. They said, well, we were at Al Basha. I love Al Basha. They said, well, if you were stranded and you were in a cave and there was beef, would you eat it? And I said, well, if you were stranded and there was a dead human, would you eat it?
Yes.
Of course you would eat it. It would be unwholesome to yourself to not eat it.
It would also be kind of insulting to them.
It would. For that thing to have died and then you die because...
You chose not to.
It would be a disregard for life.
Mm-hmm. So, that's actually how a lot of people, there's a lot of hunters out there that after they kill it, they thank it. You know, they thank
that's
the
what
animal.
I started
and all
doing.
that. Yeah.
Whenever I first started.
Yeah, you thank the animal. You're showing respect. Japan's really big about that.
Yeah,
you're thanking for the meal.
Gochu-sama desu ka?
Yeah, it's sumimasen, sorry. So it was,
do that during lunch. What the fuck are you doing, bro?
Nihongo ga wakaimasu ka? Skoshi wakaimasu. So anyway, it's but they're really big about respecting the meal, not just the meal, the person who prepared it, all this stuff. It's kind of like Thanksgiving for every meal for them.
Right.
They're like, no, I'm thankful completely.
I still do
really
that.
big. And you know, I'm glad we brought up the topic of Japan because I was talking to somebody about this. It's like if you don't know like the way Japan lives, they have a lot of things that they've actually derived from Buddhist teachings and all, and they kept them in their culture even though they're not all Buddhist anymore. And a lot of that I wish America would have picked up, because they have philosophies like, even if you're a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper you can be. And we don't have that. I mean, I can't get a burger made properly at McDonald's. I mean, why? They're like, man, this job's beneath me. It's like, but you don't even do it well.
Right.
I'm
People
like, do
can't
it
get
well
their-
first, then say that.
Yeah, people can't get their cable installed for crap either. I don't understand that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't get that at all. My cable don't work. I don't care.
Right.
You don't need cable. Go outside and play.
Pretty much like all you can do is do the best that you can do, and like
But that also falls into if you want to be that. That's another problem.
right. I get it.
Because you're not going to put your heart and soul into something that you're.
Actually, but that's their philosophy. The
Yeah.
philosophy is, even if
Wherever
you don't
you're
like
at,
it,
do it.
Right.
yeah, wherever you are, be the best.
But people
at
don't
that
agree
you
with
can
it.
be.
That's what I'm saying.
I know, but a lot of that comes from not being appreciated for it.
Right,
Their
it's
culture appreciates it.
conditioned.
Yeah.
We are ultimately conditioned.
Here you can do the best you can be, and that you probably get taken advantage of for it. Whereas over there you'll probably get appreciated for your work.
I remember there was one time we went out to eat. And this was like when I first got a job. Me and a buddy of mine, we went out, and I did not. The server was awful, so I did not tip. It was really bad, one of the worst experiences. But the food was fantastic.
That's a whole nother topic, the tipping thing in
Oh,
America.
I love that discussion. We
Um,
will get into that.
So the thing about that was though, instead of tipping her, because she was trash to me.
So judgmental.
Dude,
That's okay.
Anyway, I ended up tipping because it was 4 cooks. I ended up tipping all 4 cooks and writing a note.
Aw.
And I thought it was so funny. I just thought I wasn't trying.
You get this much, you get this much,
Yeah.
you get nothing.
Right.
None for you. So like my brother, it's funny. He used to have this thing where he would, at the beginning of the meal, he would like figure up how much everything was going to cost, and he would put money at the end of the table. And he would tell the waitress, "This is your tip. Like, I already know how much I'm going to tip you. It's a pretty good tip, you know. But my drink's empty for too long. Take a little bit away. You can actually watch your tip drop.
Oh
now I don't know
my
if that's a
gosh.
good idea, because if it gets too low, they may just not care anymore.
Right.
But I, like you were saying, I don't like the tipping system in America. That's ridiculous. Why? This company, first of all, should be paying you a decent wage.
Right.
You know, why do I have to decide on that? Yeah, I mean, the company should. I shouldn't. You know, I should have a set price for my meal. There's a lot of countries that don't do that. Like, I had to ask that when I went to Honduras with my wife. I had to ask, like, what's the tipping system here? Like, how do y'all do? Is it normal to tip 15%, 20%? And she's like, just whatever, they appreciate it. Whatever you give them, they're going to appreciate it. But there's a lot of countries where they're like, no, you don't tip their employees. We pay them. You're insulting us, actually, because it's like saying we don't pay our employees enough.
Right.
I didn't know that, but I
Wow.
found that out recently. So I think that should be the way it is here, too. I think they should be required to pay these people a decent wage, at least. I'm not saying $15 an hour like some people are like, oh, we need to. Okay, I understand economics, so I'm not going to argue about that. But I mean, I think they should at least bring it up to a level of decent pay. You know what I mean? Whatever the average tip is, okay, go ahead and add that to their pay. And if you need to raise your prices on your food, that's fine. I was going to pay it anyway.
Right.
So
Right.
so just add it to it.
Well, I think because I do work a tip industry, I am a hairstylist, so.
Your tips are like deserved though.
Well, thank you.
No,
Thank you,
no,
first of all.
Not just you.
Right.
All
Thank
hairstylists,
you.
because that is a service. I don't
That
know if
is
you
a
ever seen The
skill.
Office.
Yeah.
Dwight's whole thing about tips, I love. Why would I tip someone for something I can do?
Oh
like,
my God.
I can, you know, and like at first it's funny, but then you start thinking like, man, if they allowed me, I'd go grab my food.
Right.
Like, I'd go grab
Well,
my
I've
drink.
actually I've had that philosophical little argument with people. I'm like, when I go pick up fast food from a place that's also a sit-down restaurant, should I tip? I'm like, exactly, no. I'm like, no, I picked it up. You didn't offer me.
But you
service.
feel bad. Sometimes
Yeah,
you
you
look
feel
at
like
that
you
and you're
should.
like, damn, should I? But you shouldn't, because who are you tipping anyway? The company? Like, who?
Yeah, who's getting that tip?
The way I look at it, it's interesting the way my brain works. I work a tip industry, and I definitely believe in karma even before I knew what the word karma meant. I think that if I never tip, I'm never going to get tipped. Because, I think the statement of you should treat people how you wish to be treated is good, but I think it should be altered. And I think an even better version of it is treat people better than how you wish to be treated. Because ultimately, that will create a ripple. We think that
The
it
pay it
doesn't.
forward effect.
The pay it forward effect always works. It will always bring progress in all aspects.
I think China had a big push for that. That was a big push in China, was that whole pay it forward mentality. You've seen the commercials and stuff on Facebook that they run in China. I know they come up all the time, but the little videos.
I don't know, the things that be coming up on your Facebook lens.
Hey, let's not talk about that, all right? There's some weird stuff they try to sell me.
I don't
on Facebook.
understand because
I
never looked it up. I'm like, you've
I
had to
don't know
look
what
it up.
they're.
It just
I'm
comes up.
telling you, I don't know where they get their algorithm for what they're going to market you. I'm like, why? Did they
He
think
swears
I
he
need to
never
buy
looked this up, but he's like, this is all I'm seeing. I'm like, you've had
Dude,
to.
I mean,
I
I can go in here right now and it's probably up there. I mean, it's they're bombarding me with commercials for underwear.
It's special underwear.
Yeah, it's like underwear that separates the jewels.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah, he keeps getting those.
I'm like, dude, why are they trying to sell
You
me these
just need
underwear?
to try them out.
That's why I
It
was.
might be light.
It's like 6 different companies. I'm like, they apparently really
Wow.
think I need some underwear.
So this is a great discussion on charity. So charity is a perfection. The act of charity is beautiful. To have something, someone who does not have something, to give them as much as you can give them. It doesn't matter what or how much. It matters on giving. And it matters your intent. Your intention is truly what matters in all aspects. If you're intending to have a conversation with someone and reach a resolution, that's a good intention. If you're intending to argue with that person...
Got a good point to make on this one.
Okay,
Because
very good.
I've had this discussion with somebody.
Okay, very good.
So I've worked in the city a bunch. I've
Okay.
been around a lot of these homeless people.
New Orleans,
In
if
New Orleans. Okay,
people
and this
that-
is what I had a discussion with somebody. You meet a homeless guy. You know he was a heroin addict. You know that already. He tells you. You can see the needle marks. You give him money. Your intention was, I did a good thing. He can go get food. He can get some water. Maybe help himself out, a little bit. But instead, he takes that money. He goes and shoots some heroin. He dies.
Right.
Now you've assisted in his death.
Right.
Why? Because he was an irresponsible person to begin with. And that's something I made an argument with somebody. Would it have been better for you to try to help him in a different way rather than just throw money at the problem? And that was what I was telling you. I'm not going to say who I was having this conversation with. It was somebody.
I had this
That's
recently.
It was a
as well.
personal. And I told him, I said, sometimes I know you think just by throwing money at them, you're doing good for them.
Right.
But a lot of times you're not.
I want to say stuff about that, but that's going to be for next week's episode. When we
Oh,
have,
I have perfect, at least my aspect of this. I want to hear that whenever y'all are ready. But
you can go ahead.
ultimately, like I said, with all things, you must develop compassion, as compassion is the highest wisdom. Compassion meaning looking at the situation. And me, I'm kind of dumb. Like, I'm going to give you my relationship with homeless people. At first, I was just throwing money. And honestly, it was ignorance. And, I finally started realizing, I was like, okay, well, really, let me go and buy them food.
That's exactly what I took.
And honestly, it helps and it doesn't help in situations. Because sometimes they need money. Sometimes they do need food. You will always know if they need money.
Yeah, I prefer I see people down there who come down there with a generator or something and they give haircuts to the homeless,
Yeah,
I
that's cool.
respect that. I'm like, yeah, get them cleaned up a little, maybe they can get a job. Okay, my company I used to work for actually used to give them a place to live, brought them to and from their job, and employed them all at the same time. It was my employer bought a small building. It was like small apartment complex. He let them live there. He took a small amount out. Now the big problem I have, and I told people this, and when they want to talk about the homeless and stuff like that, I'm like, I may be slightly biased just because I've seen so many situations like that go the wrong way.
Right.
I'm like, because he ended up selling that building and stopping that program
Right.
because they stopped showing up for work as soon as they got a paycheck.
Right.
And then that started making me think, well, maybe we need to rethink the way we help the homeless. Maybe they lack the skills necessary to pull themselves out. Maybe that's where we
It's
should
a
put
lot to do
our
with
focus.
mental states, though.
What's that?
Yeah.
It's a lot to do with the mental state, though.
Exactly, and that's a big problem in our country is mental health.
Yeah,
we that's a whole nother subject. We can get
we're
on
looking
that.
for people on that.
But I find that a lot of the homeless community, at least in New Orleans, I can't speak for other communities, but a lot of them have mental illnesses that are preventing them from getting their life straightened out. So no matter how much money you throw at them, they're only going to make
Money's
the problem
not the
worse.
solution.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you throw $1 million to a homeless guy, he'll probably be dead in a week.
Well, that's the thing. That's why
that's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's about money's a solution, but not the solution you need to give to them.
Well, something I used to tell people is,
not everything
is when they talk about like, I'm like, a millionaire is a millionaire for a reason. You know, he got to be a millionaire because he made good choices. Not always, but a lot of times it's because he made good choices with his money or and such. Like I said, not always, but a lot of time. What was that?
My other computer, my right computer.
Okay, anyway. So, but I mean, then you have homeless people, and I'm like, almost the same thing is true. Not all of them are homeless and broke because they're bad with money, but most of the time it's because they made bad life choices. And throwing money doesn't mean you're going to make better life choices. It just means you're going to have more money to make bad life choices with.
So it's truly acting with, like, I say that acting with compassion is the highest wisdom, but it's also vice versa. Acting with wisdom is the most compassionate thing you can do for everyone. So you must act with wisdom if you know better. I didn't know better. I learned eventually. I don't know what that could have caused. I don't know. Hopefully, they just needed money. They just needed it, and they didn't get heroin. They just bought food.
Mm-hmm.
But
wishful thinking.
Wishful thinking, right. But it's about your intention, and, like, it's okay to pivot. It's like your intention can be good, and you can learn. And then you can pivot your intention to better serve what you're ultimately trying to do, the highest good.
Yeah. Well, I've had a situation where I had, I can say who, person that was close to me, asked me for help, and I said, I will help you this way. A, B, C, D.
Right.
This is the way I will help you. Well, I really don't like that. Then I'm sorry.
Right.
You'll have to find another way to help yourself.
This
is the way I can help you. I can use my method and try to help you get back on track. But if you can't stay within those guidelines, then I'm sorry. And I think that's personal belief. I think that's what we should do for the homeless right now. I think we should make facilities where we can retrain them to be in society. But I think these facilities can't be in cities. Right. You can't have it in New Orleans. Why? Because they're completely surrounded by the things that put them in those situations.
Right.
If you could get them out of the cities into facilities where they can't just walk over to their local drug dealer, or whatever, or to the local bar, or to the local corner shop that's got a 40 ounce for $1.99, stuff like that. I'm saying, and then teach them how to garden, how to manage their money, how to, do a resume, life skills, things that maybe they missed out on, and then maybe also assess them for mental health problems. And I do think money needs to go to that.
Yeah,
I think we give. I'm not saying welfare is completely bad,
right?
But I'm saying a lot of these people maybe should be reassessed. Why is it necessary? Why is it so necessary that the government has to help you out? What is it that's not going quite right in your life?
Right.
That
We need to change
welfare is
the
necessary?
formatting.
Exactly. Saying, sure, everybody might need a hand every now and then. We're big enough, strong enough of a country that we can give a hand to people. But I would like to see more of that go back to the people, though. Less, I'm going to tax you, take your money, and the government's going to decide how we're going to help people. I would rather it go back to people. Christianity in America, America's mostly Christian, so we'll say I'll go with them. But Christians in America are very giving when it comes to charity.
Right.
And I think if you let them keep more of their money, they might even be more charitable. Yeah. So I'm saying I would like to see it go back to taxes. No, it kind of blended together.
I'm about to say, this man.
No, we're talking about the way that we address homeless and the way America addresses compassion to people such as mentally disabled.
I'm about to say, this man got a thing with taxes right now.
No, I mean, mostly because I say that's people want to be more compassionate. I think most people in America would like to be more compassionate, would like to do more charity, would like to be able to, and I don't like the idea of you're taking 30-40% of my money and doing stuff with it. And I have no idea what you're doing with it. Like, I have no clue. But you're telling me you're doing good things with it. I'm like, why don't you let me hold on to it and I'll do good stuff with it? Like, let me
another
decide.
Topic for
let
another
me
day.
decide. Yeah, we'll get into that. But I'm relating it to the compassion thing because, like I said, I've told people before when they're like, well, why don't you do this? I'm like, look, I would love to. I said, but at the moment, it takes everything I got to take care of me and my own.
Do what you can with what you have where you're at.
Exactly. And that's what I tell you. I would like to do more, but this is what I can handle at the moment.
I think that's a good.
If I were wealthy, I would do more.
I think that's a good place to end this. We have been over an hour and 30-something minutes.
Yeah,
Take your vitamins, kids.
We
Drink
can
your
pick.
green
We can
tea.
pick up another one. Yeah, we're rolling another topic, so we'll get into another topic on another day, and we'll continue on. So, would you like to summarize your basic
Final thoughts.
Yeah.
Good is good at the end of the day, always will be. You know when good is good, and you know whenever it's not. So be thoughtful about it. Be mindful about it. Be mindful about everything that you do. And everything will be better. Because it always will be, as long as you put your mindfulness to it. Because we are inherently good.
Well, that's good enough.
Hashtag close enough.
We have been the Divided People. Go meditate. Well, how'd you like that one? If you do like it, please give us a thumbs up. Make comments on our YouTube videos. Give us stars on any podcast platform. Like us on Facebook and any social medias. We're the Divided People. If you would like to be on this podcast, you can always message us on any social medias. We do respond. I know lately it's been kind of hectic, but I do try to message y'all individually and talk about it. I do want to talk to people first before I decide to put them on, because I do want to get their ideas down. And sometimes people have ideas that aren't about the topic we want, and that's perfectly fine. We'll put you on, but just not on that topic, because you sometimes don't realize you have more stronger and passionate ideas about a different topic. So everybody, thanks for listening. Y'all have a good night.